Okay, so here's where we left off last time. We practiced rounding all of the corners of these different types of lines. And in this section, I did something deliberately just to kind of show you how you can use a mistake and turn it into something cool. And we don't even need to call it mistake. Maybe it was meant to happen. So I used a Sharpie marker in this section deliberately. Earlier on in the book, there is a page that talks about the materials that you need, and it does explain that if you don't want to bleed through to the next page, you don't want to use a Sharpie marker. So this is a Sharpie, this is a black like ballpoint ink pen, and I went ahead and I used the Sharpie here deliberately so that you could see that it definitely bleeds through to the other side. But I'm going to go ahead and use this and turn it into something cool with this next part of my practice. So the next part of the practice is we're going to practice rounding and connecting these cathartic scribbles. We're going to connect the scribble to the circle by adding lines, and then we are going to round the connections and all of the scribble lines that make sharp points. So in this first part, we're just going to be connecting all of the sharp points to the edges of the circles. And then we're going to create two scribbles down here without the circles, and we're going to practice extending the lines to the edges, the sharp lines to the edges, and then we're going to round the corners of everything. So that's going to be the next part of it, and I'm going to incorporate all of these bleeds into my cathartic scribble. So this is the part we're going to be working on next, and we're going to take this mistake and turn it into something really, really cool. So here I'm showing you the part of the process where I'm extending the lines to the edges of the circle. I'll do that for both of these top drawings. I don't want you to think too much about the scribble. Just take a deep breath, think about something that you want to solve, and just let your pen flow. So as you can see here, I'm extending all of the sharp points to the edge of the square box, and I'm actually going to start using the bleeds as part of this drawing. So you can see me using my pen to kind of go around some of the bleeds and start to incorporate them, and you'll see more of that a little bit later. So on this drawing, I'm actually just using a rounding technique where I'm creating a soft shape inside of each of the scribble shapes. And that's an easy way to round off the corners and keep a continuous line going. So I'll find a shape and I'll literally just draw a rounded shape within each of the harder shapes. And you can see here how that creates softness a little bit easier than going in and just rounding off each of the individual corners. Everybody is different. Some people like this, some people like the other way, and I'll show you both in this particular video. But this one, I'm specifically using that method where I'm creating soft shapes within each of the individual hard ones. Moving on to this next drawing, you'll see that I'm going in and extending the lines out to the edges on this one, and that's just something I wanted to do in addition. And now I'm going in and I'm creating rounding within each of these harder shapes. On this one, I'm not going to fill in the smaller shapes with bubbles. I'm going to fill them in with black pen, and that's really just so that you can see the difference, and obviously you have your own choices to make on that, but I wanted to give you some variety in what I'm actually demonstrating. These are some of my favorite drawings to do when I start rounding my scribbles and turning my scribble into something soft and beautiful. It's just one of my favorite things. And later on, you'll see how I use doodling to complete these paintings. But as this is a practice page, I wanted to just show you how to round the corners of the scribble. And obviously, all of our scribbles are going to be very different, and it would be so fun to see yours. So feel free to message me with your specific scribbles and outcomes after you've done the rounding. I'd be really excited to see them. One thing I didn't mention is that I'm using a black colored pencil in the last drawing, and this one, it just feels better in my hand and flows really nicely and smoothly over the paper. So that's my preference. So you can choose pen, you can choose colored pencil, you can choose whatever you want. This is that last drawing that had a lot of the bleed marks from the previous page, and you'll see how I use the black pencil to incorporate those bleed marks into the drawing. And when you see the outcome, you'll see that it is a pretty cool looking drawing. And again, no mistake is really a mistake. It's just something that you can use and incorporate, and maybe it was meant to be. All right, so here we're looking at the afters of each of those drawings. We've got the scribbles before, the scribbles after. We've got examples of the whole entire process for each of these. I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like transformed, and here's the end product.